Yes, I'm Bernie Corbett, and I'm the General Secretary, which is the Chief Executive of the Writers Guild of Great Britain. I'm not a writer myself, although I have a background in journalism and I'm a professional trade unionist. We have something like 2,200 members, but they're not all professional writers. We have about 1,400 full members who are either currently active professional writers or maybe people who are retired or semi-retired. We also have about 600 members who are candidate members. These are people who are trying to become established as professional writers but haven't yet had a professional standard contract yet. And we also have categories for life members and student members and writers' agents who wish to be affiliate members of our guild. We principally are involved with script writers, so this is not just screenwriters. The biggest single group of our members are screenwriters for television in drama and comedy, but we also have several hundred theatre script writers and smaller numbers of radio drama writers, book writers, and we now have a small but very active and growing section for writers of video games, which is a very interesting new area. We also have a special section for writers in all different media for children. We think this is a particularly important aspect of our culture, that there is proper writing in all media for children. Well, I'll tell you how it came about. The Writers Guild of Great Britain is exactly 50 years old. The 50th anniversary was in May 2009, and the Guild was started by a group of television writers, and television then was a fairly new thing. These writers observed the Guild that had been operating in the United States and felt that they needed to set up something similar to protect their position and make sure that writers were central to the process. In that they were very successful, so much so that the writer remains central to the process in Britain today of writing drama and comedy for British television channels. It's not the same situation in the British film industry, where, as in many other countries, the emphasis is more on the director. But there is no doubt that in television it is the writer who is seen as the central figure. Back in the late 1950s and early 1960s, there were far fewer people with any understanding of the techniques of writing for television, and so those writers were in a unique position to group together in a guild and have negotiations with the main broadcasters, first the commercial broadcaster ITV and subsequently the BBC, and they set out collective agreements which govern the contracts of TV writers in Britain to this day, although obviously many details of the agreements have changed over the years. The principal components of the agreements are, of course, the minimum fee, and that is paid to the writer in stages, with half of it being paid on signature of the contract, a further 25% on submission of the first draft, and the final 25% on the approval of the final version of the script. And that payment of the final 25% triggers the writer's entitlement to further payments of residual payments and royalties should the show be repeated or sold to an overseas television channel, or nowadays, of course, issued on a DVD or made available for internet downloads, for instance. But the contracts also deal with various other matters as well. A very important one is the writer's credit. Our contracts all stipulate that the writer must have a matching credit to that of the director in the same size lettering and at the same time at the beginning of the programme. Our agreements also deal with extra payments to writers for their pension. This was one of the pioneering achievements of the Writers Guild, to set up a pension scheme that saves money for your retirement. Whenever a writer is contracted by a British broadcaster or independent producer, there will almost invariably be a contract based on these agreements. But it's not one agreement for the whole industry. We do have separate agreements for the BBC and for ITV and for independent producers. Yes, we have quite a complicated regulatory system in the UK which deals with broadcasting, not only with broadcasting but also with all kinds of telecommunications. And the regulating body is called Ofcom, which is an acronym for Office of Communications. Now, there are laws in the UK that oblige all the broadcasters to source a large proportion of their programmes from independent producers and not to make them in-house. It is a minimum of 25%, but in fact the BBC is currently working to a minimum of 40% of all programming to be commissioned from independent producers. Consequently, the relationships between broadcasters and independent producers are very crucial to the whole of the UK broadcasting industry, and the regulator Ofcom has the obligation to approve very detailed terms of trade that govern the commercial relationship between the broadcasters and the independent producers. These are very long documents. You can find them on the internet if you're interested, and they cover all manner of commercial aspects of this relationship. But as far as writers are concerned, it is significant that the terms of trade do say that the independent producers must engage writers at a standard on standard industry terms and in accordance with the collective agreements that the Writers Guild has made. In other words, it is not legitimate for them to undercut the market by paying low fees or doing buyouts instead of proper contracts with royalties and residuals. Right. Okay. This has certainly not taken over the entire production of British television as we speak, although it has come in the last few years and has been really quite successful. So I would expect to see this as a system that will grow. It is an import from the United States as far as we're concerned, but British television is based on somewhat different practices from America, so the idea of the showrunner has been adapted. We are certainly talking about the showrunner in the UK as being normally the principal writer as well. This is sometimes the case in America and sometimes not. We are looking probably at a smaller team than you would see in America, perhaps another 3 or 4 writers. The issue that we have in Britain is that we tend to make TV series or runs of shows that are much shorter. So instead of 20 or 26 episodes, we will have 6 or 8 episodes normally in a series. And for original drama, we don't tend to make single dramas, but they're usually maybe 2 or 3 episodes. So, from the point of view of the showrunner, it's generally the originator of the show, the writer of the first few scripts, and somebody who will keep a very safe pair of hands on that show through its development through several series and therefore over a period of some years. We had a sitcom called My Family, which was showrun by an American called Fred Barron, which has been extremely successful and has now, I think, made over 100 episodes, although I think Fred Barron himself is no longer connected with it, but it's still run on the same system. And we've had a very big success with the time travel police drama Life on Mars and its successor series under different titles. These shows have been so successful that there's no doubt that this will be a model for future productions in Britain.
Thank you. And you told